for Leisure and Culture. Councillor Turner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This actually is spread between 3 portfolios. The executive summary, following consultation with the Hersham community and input from the Hersham members reference group, permission is sought from the Cabinet and the Council to spend up to £650,000 to enable the hall to be reopened in the spring of 2020. This site is very much part of the centre of the village life of Hersham. The hall was erected in the 1980s and always been very successful. The bookings for the hall were put under the management of DC Leisure in 1998. This was due to help with sport facilities whilst the building of the new leisure centre was built. This management was only supposed to last until the new leisure centre was built. Unfortunately, this was never carried out. Looking back, perhaps we should have looked for a new management, but we are where we are. We need to look at the way forward for this hall. The building has had a survey carried out to bring the facility up to a reasonable standard for local activities, with small rooms that can be let for meetings and other activities. The working group, which includes the local councillors plus some members of the Cabinet, we have met 3 times on 3 different occasions. The first was under the new administration and the second was a site visit to evaluate the surveyor's report. We were joined on that occasion by other members of the Cabinet. The third meeting, we were joined by the past chairman of the group, which was very helpful. As you can imagine, there was a fairly lively discussion with every member voicing their views. And they were strong views, there's no doubt about that. A vote was taken at this meeting that the hall should be refurbished and that we should look at the long-term future for a new combined facility for the future. This will enable us to look at the long-term solution. I know that this is a difficult situation, but I put it to you that the pressures of work and everything else that we are doing at the moment, this might, as far as the group is concerned, this is the way forward. So I recommend this report to you and the recommendations that are on the Cabinet report.
Thank you, Councillor Turner. Is there any other? Councillor Sadler.
Thank you, Chairman. I would like to add my support to this on behalf of the resources function. This is something that has been looked at by asset management. They have commissioned the Pick Everard report, which has gone into a great deal of detail. The position in terms of what we get for our 650,000 is actually somewhat better than we expected when that was first looked at. One of the benefits being that the entire toilet facilities will be stripped down and totally replaced. To me, the issue revolves around the risks relating to a complete rebuild in this case. It would have to get planning permission, and the site is hemmed in by other residential dwellings. I would have concern about how long that might take and what compromises might have to be made. How long it would actually take to get built also causes me concern. The existing hall has now been closed for over 2 years, and a protracted design, getting planning application, getting tenders, and actually getting the thing built possibly takes, 5 years. All that time, we are missing the use of that facility, and quite possibly also the Hersham Centre for the community. So I think what is proposed here is a practical way forward. It will give us the time to consider the long-term future. It will give us time to evaluate how that building is performing once it's been refurbished. And I see the cost that is being proposed as effectively the rolled-up maintenance cost from not improving the building over the last, I don't know how many years, perhaps 13 years since it's not been directly managed by us. But on behalf of the resources function, I add my recommendation to this.
Thank you very much, Councillor Sadler. I like the imaginative way you approach it. As a co-proposer, would you like to comment, Councillor Shipley? Thank you.
I think actually Councillor Sadler has just summed up everything I was going to say. I'm not going to repeat all that, and I absolutely agree that this is the way forward. I've sat in the last 3 meetings what we've had on this, and I absolutely agree that this is the way forward.
Thank you very much, Councillor Shipley. Did I see you, Councillor Green?
I'd like to reserve, actually, see if there's anyone else.
Okay. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Councillor Marshall.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm really sorry, but I cannot support this at all. I think it's financially shameful, it's irrational, illogical. We're trying to protect our green belt, and environmentally, we've declared a climate emergency. We have a building that is G-rated, and at the best, it will be D-rated by the time we spent £165,000 on it. I'm really sorry, but I can't support this at all. Sorry.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that wishes to speak? Councillor Green.
Now, I know you probably think I'm going to go on after night, but I'm not. Very concise, I promise you. The original Hersham Village Hall was built in 1886 by public subscription. The site of the Hersham Day Centre is where the original Hersham Village Hall was, and so Hersham lost its village hall to build those facilities, and so we got a brand new hall at the back. But this was presented to the council free of charge by the developers who built the shopping centre, so it didn't cost the council anything, and that was 30 years ago. Over that 30 years, unfortunately, it's been a bit run down, a bit neglected. But I'm not going on about that. Then 3 years ago, the officers come to us and said that due to health and safety requirements, it had to be closed down, along with the day centre. This administration, that's us, took the decision to renovate and refurbish the day centre, which took a number of weeks. But that was done. It's a lovely building. It's been done. It looks perfect. The hall, unfortunately, needs far more doing to it than the day centre did. And so we had a survey done, and that's what they've come up with, and that's what the cost is. Now, officers and members of this council have been working for the last 3 years in meetings, week after week, month after month, to remedy the situation of Hersham Village Hall. And finally, at the last meeting of the Hersham Project Management Team, held a few weeks ago, they decided they would put forward these plans and recommend to this cabinet that we get on and do what was promised by the ex-leader of this council only last October, and said to the people of Hersham that the hall would be renovated, there would be no housing on the site, and it would be done. That was a promise made to the people of Hersham. Now, I've got integrity, and I represent, along with Ruth and Mary, the residents of Hersham. And our view is that the hall should be renovated. It should be redone. There are those who are now saying to us, well, instead of spending all this money, let's just pull it down. I agree, let's pull it down. But if they're saying that, why didn't we do it 3 years ago? And then now we would have a brand new building. Lights and bells and everything, but it would be there and it would be open to the public. But that suggestion wasn't made then. We just went year after year, month after month, deliberating, and not getting anywhere until we really had to put our foot down, and with the cooperation of James Brown, thank you James, we actually took a decision to get on with it. As I say, I would welcome a new hall, but it's going to take time to plan, to demolish the existing hall, to get on with it. We can't do it immediately, but we have made a promise to the people of Hersham, to our constituents, that we will have by next April a hall fit for purpose for the people. Comments have been made about the lack of people using existing hall. Well, quite honestly and frankly, Mr. Chairman, Deputy Leader, the toilets were in appalling condition. The hall was dirty. Bookings could not be made on time. People, when they rung up to make bookings, couldn't get through. If they left messages, they were never answered. People going in the hall sometimes, not all the time, found that the caretaker didn't turn up on time and they're waiting about outside in the cold, especially in the winter nights. It's been a mishmash of management on that building, and of course no one's going to hire a building if it's got all these faults with it. Fortunately, we are recommending in this paper that the management and caretaking of the hall should in future come under the Hersham Day Centre, which is an excellent thing, because we have people next door who'll be able to go in, book it, and the day centre keep an eye on it, and that's one of the best things we can do, I think. So I hope we can get this through, and I hope it will go through full council. I think it will give Hersham an asset, a big asset. There are lots of things we can do on the climate changes, and we can plan for a new hall, perfect, meet everything we want. But for now, we need this hall open, and we don't want to touch anything to do with the day centre. It's up and running, it's got lots of people using it. If we start interfering now with the management of that day centre, we will lose those people, and we will go backwards. Let's look forward to the future. It's taken 3 years to get this far. Let's not go stop it now. Let's get on with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Green. And Councillor Shipley?
Thank you. I just want to comment actually on something that Councillor Marshall said, and I have great sympathy with what she says about the climate emergency motion. And we are faced with a conundrum, but as a portfolio holder for social affairs, my main concern is actually the centre. It's been suggested that we rebuild on the site and build a new centre, a village hall, and some residential development. Yes, we need residential development. Nobody's arguing with that. We would need to get planning permission. I think Councillor Sadler mentioned that, and that would take time. Meanwhile, what's going to happen to the day centre? It's been suggested that we would put perhaps a porter cabin or some sort of modular building on the site whilst the development was taking place. At the moment, the Hersham Centre is buzzing, particularly after the refurbishment. The centre was closed for 9 weeks for the refurbishment, and it can be shown that as a result of that closure, there was a real drop in numbers, and clients did not return. I'm sure that there are numbers that can substantiate this, because I know that when I chaired the Centres for the Community Task and Finish group in March in 2018, the group were given figures related to footfall at the centre. We also need to consider the volunteers who help at the centre. There is a group of approximately 65 people who volunteer at Hersham on a weekly basis, and that equates to about 10 volunteers a day. These volunteers would not be happy to volunteer at another centre. They're happy to go to their local centre, but not travel. It's interesting to note that during the 9-week closure, Meals on Wheels were taken to Hersham in hot locks. They parked in a pull-in, and the meals were transferred to the volunteers' cars so that they could be distributed to the community. This was the only way that they managed to keep this service functioning. This would not be possible long term if the centre was to close for many months. A total of 14,711 meals were produced out of the Hersham kitchens last year. That includes centre meals and Meals on Wheels. That couldn't be achieved in a porter cabin. What would happen inside the building? The porter cabin or the modular building. At the moment, the Hersham Centre has a well-used therapy room. There is beauty therapy, podiatry, reflexology, aromatherapy and hairdressing taking place. There were over 2,000 health and well-being appointments last year. It's a lifeline. There are regular activities, bingo, chair-based exercises, iPad support group sessions, knit and natter craft group. There's a specialised memory loss group, backgammon. There are 3 bridge groups in the evening. There's a Zumba class and ballroom dancing, and these classes are only possible because of the size of the hall. These activities need space. There's a very successful art class in action, and the dementia group that meet on a Friday. What would happen to that group? These are very vulnerable people. They need stability and do not like change. Meeting in a modular building would not work. They would have to be meeting in a different venue. I looked earlier today at the events calendar for the centre. Over the last couple of months, they've had clothes sales, an RC Sheriff Trust sing-along, a canal boat outing, a horse-drawn canal boat down the river weighing cream teas, a barbecue lunch with Pims. I think their social life is better than mine, actually. Leslie, the manager, has recently secured NCT let and a new fitness class. I'm afraid that some people do not have a realistic appreciation of what happens in our centres. The centres are not there just to provide meals. Each centre offers a bespoke service that has evolved over time to serve the immediate community, and each centre is unique, and that is true of Hersham. Hersham Centre fulfills the key objectives of our centres for the community, and I am convinced that if we close this centre for any length of time, you will lose it. More importantly, we will be letting down a whole community. We'll be letting down a large group of people who desperately need the centre in order to survive and have a good quality of life. There were 3,816 care support places at Hersham last year. The council is doing a lot of excellent work regarding loneliness and isolation. There are several very frail and vulnerable people who attend the centre. The centre is literally a lifeline to so many. We have a duty to look after them. The prospect of a new centre is exciting and it offers new opportunities, but the concerns I've outlined are very worrying. And this is the reason I support the refurbishment of the Village Hall, which will extend its life for at least 5 years. During that time, we can carry out the necessary investigation regarding the provision of a new centre and Village Hall, and hopefully do what we did at Molesey. The Radnor House location closed on a Friday and the new centre opened in Mole Hall on the following Monday. And from personal experience, I witnessed a similar scenario at the Ember Centre located in Ember Court Road. It moved from the site it presently occupies in Thameston. The Ember Centre closed on a Thursday and reopened the following Tuesday because they only open 2 days a week. So that's why I would support the refurbishment of the hall now for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Shipley. And Councillor Marshall again.
Thank you, Chairman. I completely understand how traumatic it is for elderly people. My mother-in-law is 93. She broke a hip and Claygate Day Centre was my lifeline. She came to stay with me for far too long, and I don't know what I'd have done without the day centre. They were amazing. That in mind, we're all getting older. All of us, whether it's now or in 5 years or in 10 years, there will be elderly people. We have declared, and with respect to Councillor Brown, in October of last year, there was no climate emergency declared by Elmbridge Borough Council. So his view was different then to maybe what it may be now. And my view is that why wait? We have an opportunity now to create something which can provide the best we can for the borough. I do feel that the evidence has been ignored to maybe suit political purpose. And how will this look for the rest of the borough that is paying £650,000 for a building that will last 5 years? I just can't see the logic in this proposal, and I reiterate, I can't support it.
Thank you very much, Councillor Marshall. I should mention at this stage that Councillor Elmer couldn't be here, but she has similar concerns as Councillor Marshall. However, we had a debate, and it's for us to recommend or not to the council. Everyone agree the recommendation? Oh, sorry, I didn't see you first time I passed round. By all means.
Thank you. Just a few words. Councillor Green is quite correct. The previous administration did agree to reopen the hall as quickly as possible. But more than that, which I don't think has been mentioned, is that we did survey all the residents of Hersham. A fantastic response, a 20% response rate on that survey. And they said they wanted the hall opened as quickly as possible. So I think, personally, I have to listen to what the residents are saying to me. The reopening, from my understanding, has a sort of 5-year life. So in 5 years' time, we could be facing this again, and we don't want a 2-year delay. So I just want to reiterate what has been said, that, you know, we need to get our act together so that we do something before we have further delays.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much indeed. So we actually had already agreed that before you spoke, but we imagined it the other way around. Are we still in the same position as we were before Councillor Mitchell spoke? Thank you very much. We now go to your next report, Revenue and Capital Budget Update. Councillor Sadler.
Yes, thank you again. I'm sure the members here will be fed up with the sound of my voice. Anyway, this is a short